are ensuring that there is accessibility of technology. Mr. Speaker, you remember I did bring an amendment of Cancer Prevention Act. One of my proposals was use of telemedicine. It doesn't make sense, Mr. Speaker, to have a cancer patient or our patients traveling all the way to India to get medical care. One, we are losing resources, taxes. Number two, we cannot hire enough doctors. Mr. Speaker, why don't we use telemedicine, courtesy of this technology? You are somewhere in Vihiga, you are somewhere in Kisumu, you are somewhere in Lamu, in Homa Bay, in Nairobi, in Kilifi, in Nyamira, Mr. Speaker, in Nairobi, you are in Meru, somewhere in, not Katwana, Katwana is in Taraka, in Makutano, Mr. Speaker, where I think Antibaiju, where we went with you, Mr. Speaker, why don't you go to a hospital in Meru, in Kapsabet? Use telemedicine, Mr. Speaker, because I've seen my time is spent. Allow me, Mr. Speaker, I was getting hotter and hotter, but allow me to support this bill and say there are few amendments we need to do, Mr. Speaker. With those many remarks, I support with amendments. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Senator Chalagai, I can see in my notes that you are supposed to second this. So can you pronounce yourself? It's not? Yes, it was seconded. The misdirected by Mr. Mogere, who is in charge of. So then let us have Senator Karen Nyamu contribute. I open the motion for debate. Senator Sosi seconded.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support the Technopolis Bill of 2024. Mr. Speaker, Kenya is not short of tech talent. Our young people have already done exploits in this field, and that's including the young man who came up, who innovated the mobile banking, comes from our country, and many others that our young people have been able to do. We only lacked an ecosystem to enhance it and to have our young people do their talent in an organized and in a profitable manner. So this bill is a good step and a bold one towards remedying that. It also creates other technopolises far from Konza, because we know that the Konza Technopolis and the Konza city was seen as the breakthrough of tech in this country. Mr. Speaker, for far too long, Nairobi was thought as the tech hub. But this bill proposes to democratize or to devolve Technopolis, or tech for that matter, because it proposes other technopolises around the country, from Kisii to Wajir. And we have to ask ourselves, how will these sites be identified so that we are careful not to introduce tokenism when we are picking the sites, so that if you come from a marginalized area, then you are out of luck. Mr. Speaker, this bill also proposes to streamline bureaucracy so that we don't have to go from one office to the other. Our young people with brown envelopes with many documents. It proposes one permit, one system, and so that will tackle the issue of bureaucracy. The bill also aligns with President Ruto bottom-up policy, so to speak, because what is bottom-up if not to give the Mamamboga's son an opportunity to also be supported in tech and in their talent. Mr. Speaker, we also have to ask some questions, because This bill has been done in such a way that is hostile to counties, because how do you ask a county government to support you with land, infrastructure, and all that, then you deny them a seat on the table? Nairobi, for example, has had 100 Technopolis or tech hubs registered without this proposed centralized body. And so that is to show that that is not really what we needed. We just needed a devolved innovation framework for the country, so that county governments are very involved in it. And I think that is something that we can come up with as we go, and we can have amendments as we go. But most importantly, let us pass this bill. As a mother and as a leader, and a witness of what tech can do to pull families out of poverty, we need to pass this bill and give our young people an opportunity to turn their dreams into jobs. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Catherine Mumu.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to speak to this bill. Honorable Speaker, I am wondering whether this is a necessary bill. Honorable Speaker, sometimes I get frustrated by bills that come from National Assembly. Many tend not to align to the constitutional framework that we have, governance framework, that is the devolved governance system. Honorable Speaker, reading through this bill, I went straight to clause 5, which lays out the functions of this authority that is being established. And the first question I asked myself, is this authority necessary? We need to grow the digital technological economy and digital economy in Kenya, but does that require an authority in order for that to happen? And the answer is no. When you look at the 4th schedule, we don't have digital technology as an assignment or a function of the national government. Neither do we have it as a function of the county government, simply because digital technology is an enabler of functions, which means both national and county governments need digital infrastructure and technology to carry out their functions. So if you're talking about businesses, if you're talking about establishing industrial parks, which national government in fact is facilitating in terms of additional allocations and conditional grants to counties, counties are setting up spaces. And nothing in law stops a county from establishing a technopolis if it elects to do so. So a law like this one is actually misleading, because it makes it look like for you to establish a technopolis in Kisumu County, you need some authority to come and tell you how this operates. I beg to differ that this is another unnecessary parastatal that is just going to gobble public funds and not assist us. I am of the opinion that the Senate should be bold enough to actually say we need the Ministry of ICT to actually put in place the digital public infrastructure, lay the fiber cables throughout the country to enable every county, every space to actually develop the necessary digital technological capacities. Honorable Speaker, innovation is not a function of a national government or a county government. Innovation can happen by anyone, whether in private sector or public sector. So if we start creating institutions and give them mandates to say they are the ones in charge of innovation, you are actually creating bureaucracies that are going to inhibit those who want to move. In fact, my view is that we need to fund our public universities better. Give our STEM subjects, our STEM departments, more resources, state-of-the-art equipment to actually carry out that innovation. Because learning institutions are the best spaces to actually nurture innovation. If we remove that from the universities and say now we are setting up a parastatal, it is in charge of innovation, it is going to do research, I think we are moving in the wrong direction. Honorable Speaker, at clause 5.1a, 1b, I see that this authority is being given powers to allocate land to investors in a Technopolis. I have not seen any cross-referencing to the land commission. I have not seen any cross-referencing to county governments which hold county land. I have not seen any reference to municipalities, to cities who also have mandates around matters planning. I think if we pass this law without having a proper conversation among the stakeholders around this issue, we are going to cause more confusion. Honorable Speaker, I have not seen any cross-referencing around what the Communications Authority in Kenya does. Neither have I seen any cross-referencing with the Data Commissioner. But I can see this authority is being given the mandate to actually be the one that is going to be the custodian of business data, whatever that means. Honorable Speaker, I think if we pass this law, we will actually be adding problems and creating confusion instead of enabling the kickoff of the digital economy in this country. Honorable Speaker, clause 5.1j actually gives this authority a function to undertake investment in a Technopolis either by itself or through partnership. So this is the authority that is supposed to give guidance, guide innovation, but it is also supposed to do business in competition with those who will be doing businesses there. This is a matter of conflict of interest. So is it a regulatory body? Is it a standards body? Is it an investment body? I think we are actually getting it wrong. And having said that digital technology is an enabler of anybody private, anybody county government, national government, I have then looked at the board, constitution of the board, and the board is full of national government PSs and people elected. It's basically being formed as a national government parastatal, being given functions that are going to be actually to go across the counties. I think whoever drafted this law did not bear in mind our provisions in the Constitution, particularly Article 6, that requires that our governance system is a devolved governance system that must actually recognize both national and county governments. So we are establishing a national government parastatal, giving it functions that are going to cross-cut to counties, and the counties do not have any role in this. My view is, if we need to set up a body like this, we need to go back to the drawing table. We need to ensure that that institution is intergovernmental, not national. We need to give it extremely narrow mandates, which would include just laying out the public digital infrastructure and leave the rest to the markets to actually grow. If you enable access to internet in the villages, the markets will grow. They don't need any authority to come and tell them how to do digital development. If we give resources to our universities, to our TVETs, we will be able to build the capacities around technology that would also enable our businesses to grow around technology. So just on the looking at the functions of this authority and the composition of the board of this authority, Honorable Speaker, this law offends the Constitution. I'm suggesting that the senators relook at it and be bold enough to tell the National Assembly we need to go back to the drawing table to do this, to ensure that this law aligns to the Constitution. I don't support it in the manner it is, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Wakiri Lali.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to comment on this bill. And Mr. Speaker, from the very onset, from where I sit, from the intention of the drafters of this particular bill, I support the enactment of a law that will help us to grow, develop, manage the governance of our Technopolis. So, Mr. Speaker, I support, but with reservations on a number of provisions in this particular bill, which I will propose that the same be subjected to amendments so that it aligns with the Constitution and ultimately achieves the objectives that the bill seeks to create and advance in terms of technology in our country. Mr. Speaker, part of the larger reason why I support this bill is that the development of ICT hubs across the country, which is one of the projects or programs that the Kenya Kwanza government had in its agenda to the people, is to ensure that we utilize the growth and development of ICT in ensuring that our young generation, Kenyans who are tech savvy, get a benefit of using technology in order to not only create employment, but to earn a living, develop their business ideas, and go beyond the region in ensuring that they get jobs and they utilize their expertise. Mr. Speaker, remember, Kenya is one of the fast-growing ICT hubs in the region, and this law, once amended, and with various propositions that I believe honorable members will give here, will support that idea to make sure that we position this country beyond the region, but globally in matters ICT, in matters technology, and that way we will be expanding the scope of source of employment to the people of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, I come from Bomet County, and there is a region in Bomet called Mulot, where we have high-tech boys and girls in ICT. My neighbor, Senator Okongo Mogeni, knows that when you cross over Mulot, you either switch off your phone or you place it on some flight mode because of the technology that is available there. This bill, Mr. Speaker, will ensure that we facilitate and tap to ring-fence such kind of technology to support those young Kenyans, those young Bomet residents, to make sure that we formalize their expertise in ICT and use it appropriately, rather than to enhance their utilization of that in what the law is not yet recognizing it as appropriate. And Mr. Speaker, I will comment about the Mulot ICT Hub, which once this bill is passed, the direct beneficiary will be myself and thousands of residents and techno-savvy young men and women in Bomet who will be directly benefiting from this particular law. However, Mr. Speaker, when you look at a number of the provisions, I want to go straight to some of them. For example, this is what Senator Muma has commented about, clause 5B, where the proposed law seeks to mandate the authority to allocate land to investors in a Technopolis. Mr. Speaker, Technopolis has been defined in Section 2 to mean a zone area which has been ring-fenced for purposes of ensuring that we have got businesses, we have got transactions within the ICT zone, but then the authority has got no role in law, in constitution, to allocate land to investors without, in this particular provision, making reference to the county government, to the National Land Commission, whose mandate in the Constitution is to be involved in such matters, land allocation. It therefore means if this law passes as is, an individual will go to court, challenges the provisions of Section 5(1)(b) as unconstitutional, and we will lose the important provisions which are compliant with the Constitution, but for this particular provision. Mr. Speaker, I therefore propose that that particular clause be amended to ensure that it aligns with the Constitution by making appropriate references to other institutions mandated in the Constitution and law for land allocation. Secondly, under the same clause 5F, this is clause 5(1)(f), Mr. Speaker, this is what I earlier on said. The role or the mandate that this authority is given is to facilitate realization of Kenya's digital economy by use of emerging technologies to support business within Technopolis. Mr. Speaker, as I said, the Kenya Kwanza Plan had the provision of establishment of over 290 ICT hubs, meaning each constituency, in fact, has been required to provide beyond the constituency to the ward where there should exist a hub, ICT hub in such a place. Mr. Speaker, this in itself will ensure that we cascade the provision of ICT technology, opening up opportunities not only in the 290 constituencies, but in almost each and every ward, thus ensuring that we facilitate the realization of the Kenya's digital economy, which of course, Mr. Speaker, is one of the major source of business opportunities and economy, which economy is built on job creation and marketplace for almost every other aspect of that we do because of the emergence of ICT in the world. This is a very good provision, and I support to the extent that it feeds into what people had been promised whilst this government was seeking to be given an opportunity to serve for this period. Similarly, this will ensure that, of course, whenever we have all these Technopolis, there will be a one-stop shop. When you look at the mandate of this authority, opening up all sorts of business opportunities which are supported by ICT in one area, will ensure that we have got a one-stop shop. By extension, we limit the abuse or rather the misuse of opportunities, because you will be able to do and transact within one area because of all businesses that will be operating within that the Technopolis. Mr. Speaker, the provision of the proposed section, clause 6 on the membership. This is actually clause 6, Mr. Speaker, talks about the authority to have certain powers. Among the powers are what I've said, which are unconstitutional, but specifically under 7, the creation of a board to manage the authority, particularly under clause 7E. Other than, of course, the chairperson to be appointed by the president, there is a requirement, as it has been said by Senator Muma, this is an intergovernmental function. We are creating Technopolis not only at the national level. We are creating Technopolis, and therefore there should be some relationship between the national government and the county government. Among the 9 members of the proposed board or authority, 4 of them represent the national government, and 7E represents 5 persons who the clause seeks to be appointed competitively by the cabinet secretary. Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, there is no reference at all to any representation of either the Council of Governors or the county governments where such technopolis are to be domiciled from. Mr. Speaker, that is one provision that is very critical. It will not be possible for an authority to be representing certain functions which are devolved in law, and yet there is no representation in the board of the county governments or the council of governors. And so, Mr. Speaker, I propose therefore that there should be further amendment to clause 7E, so that among the 5 people who will form members to the board, who are supposed to be competitively recruited, they must be ring-fenced to represent the county governments. If not all of them, at least 3 of the members who will be competitively recruited must be members who will be appointed or nominated by either the Council of Governors or the respective county governments that such a technopolis will be domiciled from. That way, we will be protecting the interests of the counties, as well as ensuring that certain functions devolved are not only performed exclusive by the national government, but with the involvement of the county governments. The rest of the requirements on the qualifications, experience of these individuals to be nominated is provided for under 3B, which, Mr. Speaker, ensures that there will be a diverse character of personnel that will be represented in the board. That way, we will be having everyone from among engineers, architects, physical planners, ICT experts, law, social sciences, and other relevant fields. This way, we will be able to have diverse representation within the board, and we will tap those experiences to make sure that we maximize the people who will be dealing with the management of the board. And lastly, on this particular one, Mr. Speaker, the appointment at different dates, this is provided for under clause 7.5, is to ensure that not all the 9 members who will be sitting in this board are appointed at the same time. There is a proposal to stagger the appointments, and this, of course, is aimed at ensuring that there will be no time or no period within which all members of the board their term is expiring at the same time. That way, we will ensure that there is continuity. When one member's term expires, the remaining members in the office can be able to run, and therefore we do not have a lapse in terms of the history, in terms of the perpetuity of the office. The staggering of appointment and nomination of members is welcome, and Mr. Speaker, this will ensure that we achieve what we have across the board made reference to continuity of office. Under clause 18, Mr. Speaker, the clause provides that this authority is expected to collaborate with relevant county government or any other government entity. This is where we are saying it is going to be extremely impossible for the authority to purport to coordinate and liaise with relevant county governments for purposes of collaboration on development of this technopolis or in any other manner that requires that collaboration when there is no representation in the board of either the Council of Governors and the Council of Governors or any other person representing county governments. This section 18, Mr. Speaker, will prove to be extremely hard to implement, and therefore it calls upon this particular bill to be amended to ensure that we give them that room to have representation. As I earlier on referred to the ICT hub that is to be developed in the county of Bomet-Mulot, it is the county government of Bomet that is required to provide for the land, and that, Mr. Speaker, has actually been made available. It will not be possible for the national government, whether it's Concert Technopolis or any Technopolis for that matter that will be created if this bill were to be passed, to go down to Bomet, develop infrastructure, get certain approvals, and the county government is not involved. So the provisions of clause 18 all the way to 21 are very critical to make sure that any expected collaboration achieves the objectives of this bill. Without such amendment, it will not be possible because it is not going to be easy for the national government to run without having the support of the county government. Under Part 5 of this particular bill, it's under Technopolis Development Control. This is the same challenge that will come to the development of the control mechanism of the Technopolis in the absence of county governments. There is no clarity under Clause 23 on how this control will be achieved, because you cannot expect the authority to regulate zoning, especially where the county government is not involved. There is need to ensure that by the time we are giving the mandate to the Technopolis to control zoning, the county government have a role to play, so that whatever zoning that is going to be expected to be done, it is done in full collaboration with the relevant county governments, or representatives of the county government will also, of course, be able to support such particular zoning. The provisions of Clause 25 make specific reference to application and approval of development permits. Under this Clause 25, there is no reference at all to any role that any county government were to play. Mr. Speaker, remember, our county governments have got the mandate in law to issue certain permits. It will not then be possible for the Technopolis or the authority to grant licenses where there is no reference to any role to be played by the county governments in licensing, in approvals, or in cancellation of those licenses. Yet, it is one of the major sources of revenue for the county governments to issue licenses to businesses, to issue permits to businesses and related roles. So we will need to still relook at the provisions of that particular Clause 23 with regards to licensing. Under Part 5, this is Part 5 on licensing procedure, Mr. Speaker. Clause 29 provides that Clause 29 and Clause 30, they speak not at cross-reference, but contradicts each other. These two clauses need to be relooked at so that there is compliance in how one is required to apply for license, and how that application in terms of whether we are classifying the licenses, where we are giving a certain fee to certain licenses. Clause 29 and 30 should be able to speak to one another so that the law can flow. But specifically under 29C, where it gives a very blanket authority to exempt certain applications from getting licenses before they operate, Mr. Speaker, I propose that the authority should only be allowed to grant exemption on two of the three proposals made. One, if you are a startup business enterprise within the technology and you are on your initial operation stage, you can be exempted if you meet the qualifications as shall be established in the regulations. And secondly, if you are undertaking a collaborative or research partnership with an already licensed and existing entity within the Technopolis. The provision that is proposed to grant another condition of any other person as may be provided for by the authority, by the regulations, is an abuse or a possible abuse of this particular provision in law. We do not need to provide for this in the Act. If necessary, if it must be there, it can only be placed in the regulations which the Cabinet Secretary is mandated to process and prepare for purposes of application. But if we leave this as is, Mr. Speaker, it is prone to a lot of abuse. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, the bill, as I said, is a good bill. It is a bill that its time has come. It will open up the region, the country to the region, and also will facilitate what we are all aware of, because where we are right now, we are in an IT world. Everything else is on the platform of technology, and this bill will ensure that it gives us the support that we require to transition. And as it transitions, if the objective of the provisions of Part 11 on the transition and the saving clauses to maintain and protect the former authority, in this case, Mr. Speaker, this is the Konza Technopolis Development Authority. A number of provisions in the proposed law needs to be relooked at so that we transition appropriately from Konza Technopolis to other Technopolis across the country without necessarily hampering the right of a county to establish its own technopolis, because as it is, it will mean that a county government can or is actually not in a position to develop its own without referring to the authority, without getting the approval from the authority. And as I've said, there is no representation of county governments through either the Council of Governors or any other representation in the authority. Mr. Speaker, with those many remarks and the proposed amendments, which I hope the committee, unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, I have not seen the chairman of this committee in the House. I hope the members who are members of that committee have followed up the proposals by members on possible necessary amendments to be made on this bill so that it be passed and it serves the purpose that was aimed at. Otherwise, as is, Mr. Speaker, there is still a lot to be done to make sure that this bill is a representation of the desires of the Technopolis and those who have come up with this particular bill. Mr. Speaker, I thank you and I support.
Very well. Senator Veronica Duarte.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to this very important bill. From the very onset, I think the intention of the proposal of this bill coming from the National Assembly was intended to regulate a field, the field of technology, which is emerging and which is developing at a very fast pace. So the intention is good, but the bill needs a lot of panel beating in many respects because there are certain provisions that seem to usurp the powers of other entities that have certain responsibilities towards the public or towards the sector. Let me from the onset indicate that with the enactment of this Technopolis law, ideally I would expect that whatever bill is presented to Parliament, that first it encourages innovation in technology and encourages emerging expertise to be utilized in cybersecurity because of the emerging issues that we are having with technology. The bill must also meet the objective of incentivizing investment into the field of technology. If that bill is not meeting that objective, then it will be falling behind what is expected for this bill to meet. And this bill, from my thinking, must also offer a framework that attracts a lot of investments while taking into account a deliberate utilization of Kenyan human resource. Because we very well know that our young generation in Kenya are very suave in technology matters. They have advanced to a very good extent. And it would defeat purpose for us to create a law which doesn't take into account deliberate utilization of that human resource, the Kenyan youthful human resource that is very well versed in technology. I have looked at the provisions that are in this bill, and I want to join my colleagues, Senator Kathy, and I don't remember, there was another senator who also, I think it was Senator Osoti, who also talked about the definition of a geographical area, controlled area. And there is also Senator Sigei who's spoken into it. And I'm looking at the definition section, the interpretation section, preliminary. That's on page, the first, I think it's page, I don't know why it's named as page 113. I'm looking at it and asking myself why Konza Technopolis was defined with specific reference, specific parcel of land, and with a specific geographical zone, with specific hectares, 2023.6. Supposing tomorrow, Mr. Speaker, supposing tomorrow Konza Technopolis needed double this space, or did not need this much land and needed to utilize a quarter of this land. Would it be smart to define that parcel, specific parcel of land reference number 9918/6? What is the purpose of introducing a specific? This is legislation. This is not a contract. You define acreage and you define area based on a specific contract between contracting parties so that it locks the subject matter of that contract. When I look at definition of Konza Technopolis, it's a bit, it's something that anybody would put in a schedule or in a regulation or in a next document. Ideally in law, you must create a principle which gives the parameters around which an issue is being enacted for a regulation or a rule. So I think it's a bad idea and that must be amended. Then I've looked at the reference to the buffer zone, meaning a defined area surrounding a technopolis that is subject to controlled land use. When we talk of a buffer zone, it is not even defined whether it's now within this Konza Technopolis or whether that buffer zone will be taken beyond the 2,023 hectares. It is not defined whether the authority, Technopolis authority, will wake up one morning and define the buffer zone as a radius of, say, 1,000 hectares around the Konza Technopolis, and that leaves it vague and subject to abuse. I would say, first, when the buffer zone is introduced within this legislation, what is the purpose of that buffer zone? What is the size of that buffer zone? What does it intend to fulfill? Is it helping the Technopolis? Is it radiation? Is it subject to certain things that could be affecting the neighborhood? What is the buffer zone for? If you just throw words here, we know how our nation operates and how our people think sometimes. Some of them are not well-intentioned. They will misuse that area, that reference to buffer zone, to bring in demands on maybe the people who live around the Konza Technopolis, and it could be used wrongly by people who are not well-intentioned. So I would say, let the buffer zone be taken out. If it's not taken out, define the purpose of that buffer zone, the size of that buffer zone, whether the buffer zone is within the Technopolis area or whether it is not. And I give this submission while respecting the fact that ideally, this Konza Technopolis should not be defined the way it is. This doesn't look like good draftsmanship. Then, the definition of Konza Technopolis. Though I'm not an expert in IT, I'm asking myself, should a Technopolis dealing with technology, dealing with virtual spaces, should it be defined in a physical manner? Or do we define even virtual spaces where this technology will be utilized? Are they within, is this act applicable to virtual spaces? So I'm thinking there is just something not correct about that definition, and experts must be able to tell us, for instance, when you have a virtual space, do you own that virtual space? Are there rights that could help one to own that? If you leave those virtual spaces here, can you raise a claim against a competitor who comes in to use your virtual space? I see many times, Honorable Speaker, when companies like Safaricom host masses, they have satellites, they have masts. I see them having a joint cooperation with other companies in the same sector in communication, utilizing that space because of certain policies that you regulate, how even those spaces, even those aerial spaces can be utilized by companies to ensure that you're not spreading out certain parameters of uses of land that could be co-shared between even competitors. So when we see the definition of Konza Technopolis as actual land, is the mindset still in investment on physical property, physical tangible assets, physical immovable assets, Or do we have spaces that are not seen, by bare eyes? So I see as though that is not very progressive. It does not take into account the utility of virtual spaces. And I believe should be amended or removed from this revised and dropped. And based on whether virtual spaces should be included, then the definition must change. Then, Honorable Speaker, I have gone to Section 5 of this bill, and I have looked at 5(1)(b), and the powers that are given to, the functions that are given to the authority to allocate land to investors in a technopolis. From the plain reading of this provision, Honorable Speaker, this clause does not indicate whether there are any terms even for allocating that land. And indeed, as pointed out by legal experts who are also dabbling in as senators, land allocation is something that is not within the purview of the Technopolis unless if they own it and they want to lease it. In which event, they would say leasing the land or using different terms and concepts. Allocation of land is a function that is left to either the government, the Ministry of Lands, or county governments. They could allocate, but I'm not sure whether allocating land is a concept that should be used here. Maybe other definitions of how land could be, how land could be leased out, or other ways or licensing of that land by the holder of the title. And again, the provision leaves it very open. For instance, if this is enacted into law and it says that this authority shall allocate land to investors in a technopolis, it means all I would need to do when this turns into law, I would just walk into the offices of the Technopolis authority and then demand that land be allocated to me. And because they have not put it subject to any conditions that may be developed by the authority, I would even say it's a free allocation. So if you try to put a premium on it or demand a consideration for that land as the authority, a person interested in that land or an entity interested in that land could easily challenge this in court and say it was an open allocation. So if they must allocate or lease out this land, that must be amended to read that based on the conditions that will be laid out by the authority. It has to be closed so that anybody transacting with that authority will understand that there are conditions that are developed. And then there is the concept within which this law has been made. If you read it, it's pointing at just the Konza Technopolis. How about the concept of this Technopolis being open to 47 other counties? So that we have a clause introduced in the bill foreseeing a situation where the 47 counties would have the freedom to also develop their own Technopolis. And supposing already in one of the counties, say in Nairobi, they're already having an area where Nairobi County, where they have already developed a concept close to Technopolis. Can a clause not be introduced into this bill that then says those Technopolis which are already meeting the conditions under this bill will be recognized to be within the purview of this bill and will become subject to the authority? The land use in the Technopolis, there is defined in Section 6 of this Technopolis bill that the authority shall have all powers necessary for the proper performance of its function under this act, including the power to regulate land use in a Technopolis. So how far do you give this power to Technopolis, and why is the land use being regulated by Technopolis when in actual fact the zoning of land and land use is defined elsewhere, especially because there is an intention for that land to be allocated? I think this is an overreach and it needs to be redefined. that function could be resting elsewhere, not within the Technopolis. And if they must do it or give an advisory, they can only give an advisory to the organs or the entities that are legally mandated to deal with the land use planning. So my submission is that function rests elsewhere and should be left to the entity, the public entity that is supposed to deal with it. When I look at 6D, approve development applications, issue construction permits, and license users within a Technopolis. Of course not, they cannot issue construction permits. That once again is within the purview function. It's a function of the county governments. They issue construction permits unless they need a very technical construction permit whose expertise rests within the Technopolis. But there is no suggestion within this bill that they will have a team of experts in construction of premises suitable for matters that are required to be developed or technology that requires to be developed within the Technopolis. They have not brought in the element of very special expertise that cannot be handled by the county governments. And if they have not brought in the concept of experts who can come into these construction permits, that is not within their mandate. So it will be void, even on the plain reading of it. And they do not reference to any regulations that will be applied in licensing. Then I want to look at 6F. The authority has been given powers to enter, inspect, and search any premises to enforce the act. Is that not going against the Standard Policing Act? How will they enter? Do they have a policing unit? Is there a creation of policing unit? It's food for thought to the proposer of this bill. Let me go to the qualifications of the chair and under section 7. The chair seems to be a person qualified for appointment as the chair if the person is a citizen of Kenya, holds an undergraduate degree from university recognized in Kenya, has at least 10 years experience in leadership and management, and meets the requirements of Chapter 6 of the Constitution. I do not think those qualifications are adequate for a chair of such an authority. We must add another qualification, and an amendment must be done to this section to add that he must be a graduate qualified in a matter of technology, so that he's versed with what the authority is doing. Just bringing in somebody from, for instance, if you gave that authority to Professor Tom Ojienda, and we know what his expertise is in, would he be the best suited Kenyan to lead that authority? My proposal is it should be a person who is versed with IT or technology matters or communication matters. So, Honorable Speaker, in my view, a lot of work needs to be done, and a lot of work needs to be done to amend and revise these sections. This looks like an ordinary bill, one that does not go into the specializations that it is supposed to be addressing. So while the intention is good, it does not go into the specific technology area and bring out the salient, unique issues that need to be addressed within the Technopolis. And once again, the buffer zone of the Technopolis needs to be addressed. That concept of the buffer zone needs to be addressed. And then, Honorable Speaker, I've seen a section also requiring that processing of expatriates' permits, working permits, will be done by the authority. That also needs to be rethought. Processing of such permits would normally be done by the immigration, and entities that come to trade or invest must have the local content. They must have Kenyan within the purview of their human resource, so that if we have local skills that can serve within those companies, they must be included, and they must have a Kenyan local content included in any investments that come into the Konza Technopolis or into the Technopolis concept. With those many remarks, I support this, but subject to revision, to heavy revisions, to clean up and tidy out all those issues that have not been addressed, and to bringing the concept of technology within the bill, so it doesn't look like an ordinary bill dealing with any other ordinary aspects in Kenya, but it must come through as a bill that deals with AI, if AI needs to be dealt with in this bill, other aspects that are emerging within the technology, how they would be managed if they are housed or premised on the Technopolis jurisdiction. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity, and I support.
Okay, let's have Senator Pelis Tobiko.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support this bill, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this bill has come at an appropriate time, Mr. Speaker, when Kenya is going the technological way, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we definitely need this bill to start and to regulate the virtual infrastructure, the virtual space, the virtual businesses, Mr. Speaker, and to initiate the issue of Technopolis in this country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it has been long coming because the idea was mooted during the time of President Kibaki, Mr. Speaker. And to the extent that today the Konza city has come, Mr. Speaker, it is moving in the right direction, albeit slowly, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, there is hope. And, Mr. Speaker, this is the direction to go. I have listened very carefully to Senator Veronica. And whereas a lot of things she has mentioned do make sense in the cleanup of the bill, Mr. Speaker, but definitely this bill, Mr. Speaker, has come at the right time. A lot of Kenyans are going to depend on the virtual space for businesses, particularly the young people, Mr. Speaker, because at the moment, Mr. Speaker, the world is going the technological way, Mr. Speaker. So for this bill to start regulating the virtual space and also even the physical space, particularly of the Konza city, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Kenya will be known as a global pace setter in this area, Mr. Speaker, of technology, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, besides regulating the virtual space, the virtual businesses, the online businesses, Mr. Speaker, also right now, why this bill is referring to the authority is because, Mr. Speaker, even the physical space needs to be thought about, needs to be regulated, the infrastructure needs to be put in place, Mr. Speaker, for a proper takeoff, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, at the Konza city, a lot of horizontal infrastructure has already been done. And every time, Mr. Speaker, a lot of Kenyans have been worried that the Konza city is going to be a white elephant, Mr. Speaker. But because the subsequent governments, including the even the Uhuru Kenyatta government, embraced the issue of the Technopolis, and right now President Ruto has embraced the same. I think the Konza Technopolis is going to be a reality, Mr. Speaker, and a lot of Kenyans are going to benefit. Already, Mr. Speaker, we have seen the settlement of a number of universities at the Technopolis, Mr. Speaker. We have the Open University of Kenya already settled at the Konza Technopolis. We have, there is another technological university which is also starting. I think it has started, Mr. Speaker. And so, Mr. Speaker, there are a lot of infrastructural development that are at the Konza city right now. Mr. Speaker, I know there is the data center, the nation data center already in place at the Konza Technopolis. There is a high security system being established at the Konza Technopolis, Mr. Speaker. And so I think this whole the Konza Technopolis is definitely a good startup for the future, to prepare Kenya for the future, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there are a lot of opportunities at the Konza Technopolis. And why particularly I will not necessarily say the authority that's going to be established will only concentrate on the virtual space, Mr. Speaker. Even the physical space of the Technopolis and the developments around there will benefit a lot of Kenyans, Mr. Speaker. Actually, Mr. Speaker, for those of us who come from around the Technopolis, Mr. Speaker, because I am a neighbor to the Technopolis, Mr. Speaker, our hope of having infrastructural development around the place is now pegged on this, on the reality of the Konza city, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, a lot of people from both Machakos, Makueni, and Kajiado counties, and other Kenyans are looking at the Konza Technopolis to be an alternative city from Nairobi, Mr. Speaker. And not just an alternative city, but a well-planned city, Mr. Speaker, a city of the future, a modern city, Mr. Speaker, that has been planned, because a lot of cities in this country, Mr. Speaker, spring up, from non-developed and no plans in place, Mr. Speaker. And so, finally, we have a city in Kenya that will embrace both the physical, the virtual. Mr. Speaker, a lot of planning has gone into the Technopolis, and so it is very important that the authority is put in place to regulate the development, to regulate the opportunities, and to encourage, foreign investments, and to encourage a lot of international, businesses, Mr. Speaker, to come into place. So, Mr. Speaker, I do support the establishment of the authority. I do support, Mr. Speaker, the realization of the Konza city, Mr. Speaker, because we have waited for a long time for this the Technopolis to become a reality. Mr. Speaker, the authority also will become a one-stop shop. From the layout that is there now, Mr. Speaker, you will find a completely self-sustaining city that will have everything in it, well planned, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I believe the Konza Technopolis, once it's fully developed and fully functional, Mr. Speaker, Kenyans, it will be a place that a lot of Kenyans will want to be associated with, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there is proposed establishment of the Science Museum, Mr. Speaker, within the Technopolis. And I think, Mr. Speaker, this is a very welcomed idea. Mr. Speaker, it is very important that a lot of things will be documented and preserved for future purposes, Mr. Speaker, for learning purposes, Mr. Speaker. I believe the authority will be able to do that, Mr. Speaker. There will be a lot of amendments to this law, as there has been for other laws, and so our worry should not be that this document is not necessarily at its perfect form but that it can be improved. It will be made better, Mr. Speaker, right at this level and even in future, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, definitely, this is not a bill to oppose, Mr. Speaker, because it's taking Kenya to the right direction, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, talking about the buffer zone that, that this bill will create, the kind of acreage that will be around the Technopolis, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I remember when President Kibaki had proposed that, some small structures that were around the Technopolis should be removed so that the Technopolis gets, the global stature that was intended, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I am sure that that has been taken into place, and this will protect the Technopolis from, mushrooming structures around the place that might then lower the standards of this very beautiful city, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, a lot of us are looking forward to the realization of this city in the Technopolis and the virtual systems that are going to be established. When you see a lot of young people in our homes today, Mr. Speaker, a lot of them are comfortable working virtually, learning virtually, doing a lot of things online, Mr. Speaker, and it saves time. They don't have to get stuck in traffic. They don't have to get stuck in physical offices, Mr. Speaker, yet they will be contributing to the economy of the country, Mr. Speaker, once this authority is fully functional. So, Mr. Speaker, I support completely the passing of this bill, the establishment of the Technopolis, and the continuous improvement, Mr. Speaker, and placement of Kenya as a pace-setting nation in terms of technology, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I do support.
Now, honorable members, there is no other senator keen on contributing to this bill, and since the mover of the motion is not present in the House, I shall defer putting of the question to the next sitting, and therefore, clerk, I direct that you call the next order.
Order number 16, the Tobacco Control Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 35 of 2024.
Senator Catherine Muma.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the Tobacco Control Amendment Bill 2024, Senate Bills number 35 of 2024, be read a second time. Honorable Speaker, the Tobacco Control Bill Amendment Bill 2024 had its first reading in the Senate on 6th August 2024. It was then assigned to the Health Committee, which had 30 days to process the report as per Standing Order 148, and should have been tabled on or about 7th September 2024. Honorable Speaker, we are now in 2025, just about to do August, but the committee has not been able to process, even though, Honorable Speaker, I participated in the public participation process of this bill. Honorable Speaker, this is a bill that is extremely important for all families in Kenya. It's a bill that seeks to amend the Tobacco Control Act to provide for the regulation of electronic nicotine delivery system, including electronic cigarettes and related products in Kenya. Honorable Speaker, the bill in brief has amendment proposals that seek to appropriately update the definition section to ensure that new terms that relate to the electronic cigarettes and related products are defined and included in the law that guides on tobacco. It is intended to address the issue of prohibition of additives that are deceptively marketed as having implied health benefits or reduced health risks. It is intended to engage with issues connected to suitable packaging requirements, health warnings, and labeling, as well as advertising and promotion. Mr. Speaker, it is intended to tackle the problem of appropriate penalties for non-compliance. It is intended to respond to the concerns surrounding regulation of sale to minors and public place restrictions. It is also intended to deal with the matters connected to licensing requirements, regulation of importation, regulation of pricing, and commensurate taxation. It is intended to appropriately designate the regulatory oversight authority as well as enhance the role played by the Cabinet Secretary of Health in this matter. It is also supposed to provide for monitoring and reporting, as well as research, consumer education, and the role that civil society can play in matters monitoring of these products. Honorable Speaker, electronic cigarettes or e-cigarettes have emerged as a popular alternative to traditional tobacco cigarettes, often erroneously promoted as a safer option or as a route to stopping smoking, claims that are not scientifically proven. Honorable Speaker, these devices simulate smoking and deliver nicotine through the vapor of liquid nicotine, rather than the combustion of tobacco leaves. There are different types and selections of e-cigarettes, including vape pens, bars, e-hookahs, mods, tanks, and so on, all of which are classified as electronic nicotine delivery systems, or ENDS. Honorable Speaker, e-cigarettes work by heating an e-liquid containing nicotine, propylene, glycol, glycerin, and flavors, which then produce an aerosol that is inhaled. Studies have detected volatile organic compounds, heavy metals, and other toxicants in the emissions of e-cigarettes. Additionally, in products sold in Kenya, the labeling is done only on the outer packets and is extremely minimal when it comes to the actual documents. Honorable Speaker, I've actually bought some of these documents. If you look at this, there is labeling on the packet. There is no labeling on this. And what is happening, people are buying this and then throwing away the packet and selling them at will to even minors. As I will demonstrate shortly, this is the easiest thing to buy in Kenya, online, and it is accessible even through the minors. Is accessible to the minors. Which are the health risks Honorable Speaker, there are a wide range of health risks associated with e-cigarettes use and vaping. For instance, on the short-term health outcomes for first-time smokers who have never used combustion tobacco products, numerous studies suggest that vaping may increase the risk of developing chronic lung disease. In the longer term, it also worsens bronchitis, asthma, it can also raise blood pressure, and it can also suppress the immune system. In the longer term, apart from being highly addictive, early exposure to nicotine can affect learning attention, memory, and it poses social problems among young people. Honorable Speaker, protecting the young people and minors in this country is a constitutional requirement. It is a requirement because we have also signed the Convention on the Rights of the Child. One of the 4 pillars in this convention is protection of children. Honorable Speaker, e-cigarettes were introduced in Kenya in the years 2017-2018. And if you read Section 53 of the Tobacco Control Act, it contemplates that the Tobacco Control Board, working together with the Ministry of Health, working together with the Ministries of Agriculture, Trade and Industry, Finance, Education, Information and Communication, Foreign Affairs, Internal Security, will actually come up with regulations that protect. And in my view, Honorable Speaker, 8 years down the line, with the introduction of this, the e-cigarettes in Kenya, the Ministry of Health has done nothing to put in place regulations to actually guide the trade in these e-cigarettes, the labeling and regulating on how this operates. Honorable Speaker, it is for that reason that we as Parliament, where the Ministry of Health has failed to actually carry out its job, we need to bring back that mandate and put it in the parent law to ensure that they are actually compelled to do this. When the Committee on Health did public participation, you will be shocked to hear that the Ministry of Health representative suggested that we don't need this law because they can actually regulate. And I asked the question, 8 years down the road, why have you not done these regulations? Why have you allowed these products to be on the market willy-nilly? Honorable Speaker, they do not have any answer to this question. Honorable Speaker, when we were preparing for me to present this, I actually sent my team to the market to try and find out how to buy these e-cigarettes. Honorable Speaker, these products are available very easily online. We were able to go to more than 15 websites, and buying these products is very easy. There is no age restriction. When they only ask to click whether you are 18 and above, and you know clicking can actually, anybody can click, including a 7-year-old can actually click and say they are 18 and above. There is no one of those websites that asks for age verification for one to be able to know what happens. Honorable Speaker, once you buy online, some of them offer to deliver them within 1 hour. And we actually asked for delivery, and one of my staff who looks small and looks like a child stood somewhere near KICC to receive that delivery. Honorable Speaker, when they delivered, there is no age verification on delivery. Nobody asks you, can you show me your identification to know whether you are 18 or not? They just deliver it, which means that these products are actually being sold to our children. And as many schools will tell you, and I had a chat with one of the principals in a school in Nairobi who told me she regularly confiscates the e-cigarettes and vapes in her school. And she said, I think the government needs to do something in terms of regulating these products. Honorable Speaker, we also did homework. We tried to find out whether these products are actually sold in other jurisdictions and what kind of regulation applies. And Honorable Speaker, you will be shocked to know that most of the products in Kenya are manufactured in China, but in China, the restrictions around these issues or these products is so high that you will be shocked or I'm disturbed that they will do a manufacturing that actually does not align to their own standards. Of course, they are doing this because the laws in China do not apply to Kenya, and it is not their responsibility anyways to put these laws and regulations in place. It is our responsibility as Parliament to put these laws and regulations in place. Honorable Speaker, I want to just tell you some of the standards that are provided for by these teams. You find, for instance, the nicotine strength that is required for any aerosol, the little whatever they sell, the pod that they sell. In the UK, in the EU, in China, in Russia, it must be equal to or less than 20 mg per milliliter. In Kenya, because it is unregulated, we have most of the ones that are selling, the three that I picked, they actually have 150% more than what is required in these other jurisdictions. When it comes to the e-liquid volume that is required per pod, Honorable Speaker, in the UK and in Russia, even in China, it must be an equivalent of less than, equivalent to 10 ml or less than 10 ml. In Kenya, it is unregulated, so most of the ones on the market are way above that. In the UK, in China, in Russia, the pod cannot have more than 600 puffs. But in Kenya, the ones I have here, the list has 2,500 puffs. We have one with 9,000 puffs. We have another one with 12,000 puffs. Honorable Speaker, this is significant because the more puffs there are, the more or the quicker the addiction comes. So they are selling these e-vapes in quantities that are so large that if a child picks it, actually they are driving them into addiction. When it comes to warning labels, in the UK, in China, in the UK, 30% of the pack must give a warning on the health warning. 35% in China. In Kenya, since there is no regulation, I've just shown you that the inside pack has no labels on it. You have a pack that is confusing. The packaging standards in the EU and in the UK require that the packaging must be child resistant, must be tamper proof in China. But in Kenya, the packaging is made sleek with flashy and flavors that are supposed to target the young people. When it comes to sales and licensing, Honorable Speaker, all nicotine-containing products must be reported to the medical and health care products regulation authority in the UK and in the EU. In China, they actually have only the state monopoly, a state monopoly that actually a state-driven authority is the only one that can actually license and sell these products online. In Kenya, as I've just told you, you can buy these things as easily as you want. When it comes to online sales, in China, they are prohibited. You can only buy online if you're buying from the government authority, which regulates who sells that. In the UK and in the EU, it is legal to buy online, but it is now being regulated. In Kenya, as I have said, you can buy it as you wish. In the UK and in the EU, they enforce age verification. In China, they also have age verification. In Kenya, as I have told you, we actually manage to buy just by clicking on a website, and when they deliver, they don't even verify whether you have an ID. Nobody asks for the ID. Honorable Speaker, what does this mean? It means that companies that produce these things are actually taking advantage of Kenya, maybe not just Kenya, but Africa, where we are slow to actually put law and regulation in place to guide this issue. Kenya has no enforcement caps on nicotine concentration. Kenya sells pods that are way above the number of puffs. Kenya has no age production, age protection and access protection, and the sales are free for all in Kenya. So, Honorable Speaker, this law is a law that is intended to actually bring sanity in the operation of these products. Honorable Speaker, it is the responsibility of every person in this country, including those ones who are selling. I don't think anybody who manufactures this would like their 80-year-old to go puffing away on these issues. I don't think those in the Ministry of Health can look us in the face and say it is okay to leave these products to actually be accessible willy-nilly. So this law as provided, I am urging colleagues to support it, to contribute, to suggest any amendments that can actually strengthen it, and to collectively resolve that it is important, if we care about our children in this country, to actually put in place regulations to save our. Honorable Speaker, as you are aware, I like to speak for adolescents. I like to speak for the children, for the reason that the legalities around their age, reference to them as minors, means that their protection is in the hands of others. As we represent in this House, we need to understand that the people we most need to represent are people like the students who are sitting in the gallery today, to be protected from being targeted by those who do drugs, by those who actually are targeting them in terms of getting them hooked on these e-cigarettes through the cozy flavors that they are providing. And by the way, I forgot to say, in China, the only flavor that you must have in vapes is a tobacco flavor. You cannot come up with the strawberries, the melons that we have here, the ones that are actually intended to hook our learners and our young people into taking on this habit. And as I speak, I hope that our learners can actually know that much as it looks like it is cool to actually vape, to engage or to smoke the e-cigarettes, these are harmful to your health and they are likely to actually cause a lot of disruption, including diminishing your intellectual capacities over the years. So as I sit, I'm urging my colleagues to actually support this bill, to look at it, to scrutinize it, to actually resist being targeted by industry to kill it, because I know that is one of the things that is happening. The industries on these issues like to dump the highest addictive products in Africa. It means they don't care about our children. By the way, there is one product here that is being sold and it says not to be sold in America or in China. Where is it made? It is made in China. But they are saying it cannot be sold in China or America. What does that mean? What do they think about your children? Do we just embrace them and decide there is a business here? Should we be in the business of killing our children? Should we be making money over killing our children? I'm requesting colleagues, kindly read this, give us the objective comments on this, and allow this law to pass. I will be urging colleagues in the National Assembly to also allow it to pass, so that as soon as possible, we can actually remove the shame on Parliament. 8 years since these products came to the market, the Parliament has failed to ensure regulation. Parliament has failed to protect children from these products. So with all those remarks, I move and request Senator Veronica Maina to second. Thank you.
Senator Veronica Maina.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And at the very onset, let me take this opportunity to congratulate my colleague and friend, Senator Kathy Muma, for bringing such an important bill which goes into improving the welfare and the health of our nation. And why do I say that? Because we know the harmful effects of nicotine can only lead one to an early grave. Honorable Speaker, the bill that has been proposed to this House is one day too late. It should have been done before, because Kenya has been made a playing field by what Senator Kathy has called merchants of killing our population. Indeed, it is so unfortunate, Honorable Speaker, that this bill comes at a time now when it is supposed to respond to the concerns surrounding regulation of sale of nicotine to minors and also to control what is happening in the public space and restrict the use of nicotine, e-cigarettes, and all products that are in this range. It is also very unfortunate, Honorable Speaker, that even as our nation, we speak about impunity, and people tend to define impunity as something that is being done in the political arena. It is unfortunate that even the businesses that are being traded here within the Republic of Kenya have displayed and have shown and demonstrated a lot of impunity. Because, Honorable Speaker, if a tobacco product has already been banned elsewhere, how do they find access to our nation? I think one of the aspects that need to be regulated and institutions that need to be called into account are institutions like KEBS, because if a product, and we have had this challenge, not only in this area, we've also had this challenge of products like pesticides, which are banned in other countries, finding themselves being sold in Kenya on open shelves, on open counters, Honorable Speaker, without anybody even standing to say no to the sale of anything that is harmful to the public health of our nation and also harmful to our children. Honorable Speaker, that's why this bill is very timely, one day too late. And because I'm sure many people know what my stand is on matters alcohol, matters tobacco, in fact, I proposed to Senator Kathy, before we came back this afternoon, this bill should not have read the Tobacco Control Amendment Bill. I would have actually been very comfortable to second you on a bill which is titled the Tobacco Ban Amendment Bill, whatever that would stand for, or the Tobacco Ban Bill 2024. Because I actually don't know the reason why people smoke. I have been next to people who are smoking, Honorable Speaker, and especially the chain smokers. Don't ask me where I was, because I live in a normal community where I have friends, relatives, colleagues who definitely sometimes are smoking, Honorable Speaker. And sometimes as they smoke, I listen to how they are coughing, and you can tell their lungs are almost out because of the harmful effects to the health of the smoker, and the more harmful effect to the people who consume the smoke that comes from what is being smoked. And now we have the e-cigarettes, new emerging products in the market, being sold online, undeterred and controlled, being purchased by anybody from 10 years old, 12 years old. How shameful can this ever get, Honorable Speaker? And I'm happy that this tobacco control bill is going to ensure that, first of all, you cannot sell these products online, especially the ones that have nicotine. Nicotine has cancer-causing elements such as ammonia, chromium, formaldehyde, nickel, pH adjusters, and nicotine salts. They are all cancer-causing elements that should not even be consumed by a person who truly understands what is contained in that cigarette. So, as I stand to second this motion, my plea would be to all the smokers, consider how you can withdraw from the smoking, first of all, because it's very harmful to your lungs, it's harmful to your health, and it reduces your life expectancy. So one, I would say, it is not worth smoking. Two, it is criminal for any trader to purport to sell those products to underage children, unprotected. Can you imagine, Honorable Speaker, as you are seated today in this Senate, you are 14-year-old or 15-year-old could be ordering a nicotine product online in your absence without anybody controlling them. And you know, our children sometimes are in boarding schools, they will go out. Can you imagine the delivery that was done to Senator Kadhi's young worker at, I think you said that wherever it was that it was being delivered, it was being delivered at KICC. Nobody monitors, the parent is not there. But the person who is so keen to sell that product happily takes the order to that young person. Where the young person consumes that product, you cannot tell. And Honorable Speaker, what is being sold online to underage is shocking in this republic. One time, Honorable Speaker, when we were in Canada, we saw shops across streets when we were in the course of some conferences we were attending. We saw shops, and many of them, where they are selling even cannabis sativa, Honorable Speaker. They are selling marijuana. They are selling anything, and there is a freedom for them to purchase that. Is that the direction we would want our nation to go? Of course not. So we need to have control on what is being sold, an informed and very intelligent way of determining how harmful the products are, so that if it's not accepted in another jurisdiction, definitely it shouldn't land in the Republic of Kenya. And we truly want to call upon, the KEBS to ensure that they control the products that are coming from out. And I'm happy to note that on 31st May this year, the CS for Health, Honorable Duale, suspended existing nicotine products import and distribution licenses. He suspended those licenses. I wish they could stay suspended, and they were asked to reapply again for assessment as to whether they should be allowed to sell those products here. So the regulations I've seen, the controls that have been proposed in this bill are quite good, because even the premises now will be licensed and will be subject to inspections. The county government, you have powers to ensure that licensing is being done. There will be a full disclosure of the person who is manufacturing the product. The importer of the product also will be disclosed and open. There will be warning notices on the health risks that are attendant to the use of those products, so that if somebody is consuming or is smoking those products, Honorable Speaker, they can tell whether cancer is knocking or cancer is a few months away from giving them a visitation. Honorable Speaker, I have also seen now a clear definition of areas within this bill where smoking will not be allowed. And I'm happy to note in section, let me get this, section 15 of this bill, under section 15 of this bill, there are many places where without prejudice to the generality of the subsection 1 of section 15, smoking is permanently prohibited in the following areas: institutions of basic education and training, places of worship, hospitals, clinics, and other health institutions, children's homes, childcare facilities, children's playgrounds, residential houses, and such other premises where children are cared for, public service vehicles, passenger vehicles, school buses and vans, commercial passenger aircraft, commuter boats, ferries, and police cells. And smoking is prohibited in the following areas except in designated smoking areas. And it details out all the areas where you cannot just go to a restaurant and smoke. So I hope unless those designations are done, a person will not be allowed to smoke in offices and workplaces, court buildings, factories, cinema halls and theaters, police stations, prisons, aircrafts, education facilities, railway stations, markets and shopping malls, retail, stadia, sports and recreation facilities, and public building. And Honorable Speaker, as those areas are being detailed out, let me also point out it's actually very wrong and very bad manners for anybody, even a guest visiting you, coming to ask for a place where they can proceed to smoke. Because if the rest of the people in that home are not smoking and there are children within the residential areas, then don't push your hosts by asking whether you could smoke inside their house, because some may not be able to tell the smoker that we don't like that because they will respect you as a guest. But it is wrong to smoke in somebody's home. Honorable Speaker, I would also wish to raise the issue of how other products are being packaged. Other products that have been smoked before are now being packaged in sweets, in cookies, like marijuana, bang. They are being, they are packaged in a different way, such that even the children are so exposed that your child will be given a chewing gum or will be given just something that doesn't look like a drug. And what is packaged in that sweet or ball gum or whatever it is actually a very harmful product. And I would want to say to the children, because I can see we have some from my school today in Senate, don't eat any chewing gum or anything that you receive in a party. Just eat from your parents and people that you're very familiar with. Because suddenly the packaging is no longer the traditional conservative packaging that is given for purposes of, just having a candy. The candy has turned into something else. It could be anything packaged in that, including drugs that could take you out. So don't be eager to eat anything from people you do not understand. Honorable Speaker, I would hope that all the senators in the House today and even those who will hear us from online or from the recording of the submissions today, will support this bill, and unanimously we will send a statement to the merchants of death who are trading with wrong products on our young generation, that time has come for all of us to turn around and to say no to this nicotine product, to accept the control and the regulation, and to ask the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Public Health, the Ministry of Trade to be very, very, very firm on the products that are being brought to this country. It is very wrong, Honorable Speaker, for us to allow products that have heavy metals, metals that are causing damage, health damage to cancer, to kidneys, to lungs, metals that are causing health damage to organs of the body. In fact, we saw one of the notices we saw in Canada on one of the products that was being sold was a notice that there was the risk of lungs being frozen after consuming that product for about only 3 months, Honorable Speaker. And if a product is that bad, why then should anybody be eager to buy or consume such products? So, Honorable Speaker, I submit that e-cigarettes must be controlled. They must, and even other forms of vape pens, bars, e-hookahs, mods, tanks, and any other product by whichever name is brought to our market. We must be strong enough to say what we need and what we don't need, what is beneficial to us, what is not beneficial to our system. And Honorable Speaker, to finally note that anybody who is consuming some of these combustible tobacco products, including the vaping, will have a worsened situation if they have bronchitis and asthma. It raises blood pressure, it suppresses the immune system, and it increases the risk of developing a chronic lung disease. And you know, some of these ailments, Honorable Speaker, recovering from such ailments becomes a very tall order. The research in the medical field has not given cure for some of those ailments, and it is not good to gamble. And finally, these products are very highly addictive. Once you get hooked, or somebody gets hooked to these products, and very early exposure, it will affect everything. If it's a student, the learning stops, the attention becomes very difficult, the memory is affected, and you also have social problems if you're a young person. So the best thing is to ban. That's why I was proposing to Senator Kathy, that she should have brought in the tobacco ban bill, but since it has come couched as the Tobacco Control Amendment Bill, I hope the control then would ease off and reduce the risk, but on a bare minimum, we must accept that these products must be controlled. And let me also mention, there is a town in this country, Kijabi, where I'm told they don't smoke and they don't drink. Up to now, Honorable Speaker, and I'm not very young, I am yet to hear anybody who has died because they did not smoke or they did not drink. Kijabe is doing so well, and I want to appreciate the residents of Kijabe for keeping their town very free. In fact, the government should incentivize Kijabe. All the roads should look very good. They should be a model town for a place where people have survived without smoking, without a single bar, and everything has gone on very well. And if a research was to be done, you might actually find, Honorable Speaker, that without the alcohol addiction, without addiction to smoking, without addiction to drugs, they will have fewer accidents, happier families, they will be more healthy, and it will be an attractive place to look at for socio-economic and political development in such an area. With those very many remarks, I beg to second this bill. Thank you.
Now, Honorable Senators, I now propose the question that the Tobacco Control Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 35 of 2024, be now read a second time. Honorable members, this motion is now available for debate by members, and I believe the members were in the House, though I am unable to see any request. I believe the system is down. I will allow Senator Olekina to present his submissions to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to put in my 2 cents on this amendment, which is brought by my dear sister, Senator Moma, on the Tobacco Control Amendment Bill 2024. Mr. Speaker, earlier on today, we spent about 3 hours in my Committee of Health. And I feel bad that this bill has been moved before my colleagues in the House have an opportunity to be able to understand what the industry, what the stakeholders who this very parliament carried out public participation to be able to seek views on what my dear sister is seeking to do. I'm going to try and summarize the areas which I think my sister, Senator Moma, is trying to deal with when it comes to the issue of the tobacco control amendments. Number one, Senator Moma is asking that we look at the issue of the public health impact on smoking, particularly for the younger generation. Number two, Senator Moma is asking us to amend the levels of nicotines which are put in any delivery system of nicotine. Senator Moma is suggesting that currently, having high levels of nicotine in cigarettes, or even in any nicotine delivery system of 20 milligrams, which is what the industry is pushing for, is creating a lot of addiction, particularly to the younger generation. And one of the recommendations that Senator Moma is coming up with in her bill is that we reduce the levels of nicotine from 20 ml to 10 ml. The industry, on the other hand, is saying no. They're saying they have presented various submissions and arguing that international standards requires 20 ml. We have looked at other jurisdictions, and we've seen that other countries like maybe the US or the UK is around 15 ml. So it's not really 20 ml. Senator Moma has also introduced issues of taxation in terms of the levies on who should be able to benefit on the levies of this issue of cigarettes. She has also alluded to the issues of approvals, testing of the cigarettes, and approval. We looked at all those avenues. Some of them I have very strong opinions on, and because of time, I will try to summarize my submission on, and I hope that they can be able to help my colleagues who would either listen because they are not here, and those who are here, to be able to understand the areas, because sometimes I think we lose focus because of our own prejudices on the issues that are being discussed. The committee, and I think I'll be jumping the gun here by discussing some of the areas that we are talking about, considered and agreed with Senator Moma that it is imperative to reduce the amount of nicotine in any nicotine delivery system, or even in cigarettes, from 20 to 10. That is a big argument that, of course, we are going to be having. And I heard Senator Moma saying the industry has been really lobbying to make sure that Parliament does not pass these kind of amendments. That is one of the biggest tug of war that we're going to be having. And it is imperative that people understand why reducing the levels of nicotine is important to safeguard future generations. The second point, which we deliberated on earlier on today, is the issue of flavors. And Mr. Speaker, you'll allow me to use the right Swahili word on this matter, because the way we looked at it is that Senator Moma has said that in China, there are no flavors. In China, the regulations are stricter, but here, they are not strict. You know, it is like when you do away with the flavors, it is like smoking what we used to call kraiko, where when you enter from a distance of about 20 meters, people will know that you're a smoker. But the moment you now add a flavor of strawberry, vanilla, you can be able to dupe people that you've just been enjoying a good vanilla milkshake or a strawberry milkshake. You know, for me, I looked at it in two ways. Whether you're a smoker or not, whether we can tell from 20 meters that you're a smoker, I didn't see any problem with having flavors because you will still smoke. Either, in fact, we talked about, you know, the ministry was proposing that in this bill, we extend the definition of this bill, of this amendment, not only to deal with nicotine substance, but even other products that do not contain nicotine. And I'm sure those in the ministry were thinking of marijuana, because there's no nicotine in marijuana. There are other chemicals in it. So the issue here that we all must consider and must sit down and really deliberate on is whether or not to allow this issue of flavors. There was also another issue, Mr. Speaker, on the issue of using reusable, I don't know what you call them, versus, you know, those, what are they called? I think the pods, yes. Either reusable or those ones which are disposable. That is the biggest issue. And the biggest debate, Mr. Speaker, which is important for us to understand in this bill and what Senator Moma is looking for, is that the industry is saying, no, we do not want to use reusable because they are also coming up with the issue of health issues. We want to use disposable. So there's an issue of profit versus public health. So those are the two main arguments that all of us must be reduced to, contemplate, to be able to come up with a good legislation that will guarantee the future of the cigarette industry in this country and also the future of our youth. Mr. Speaker, there is no doubt that we must develop strict and stricter regulations to be able to control the industry. Some of us were actually of the idea that whatever funds, whatever amount of money that is paid, either for approval, because we saw it fit to divide the approval process and the testing process. In the bill, Senator Momo, and I would suggest that you come up with this amendment, we have to separate and put a two-level, where the testing is strictly done by KEBS, Kenya Bureau of Standards, to be able to test the levels of those nicotines. If we now say that we are going to reduce from 20 to 10, number two, I hate the fact that we are ending this because I really wanted to be able to articulate this, but I only have 30 seconds. But in those 30 seconds, let me put it this way. Hopefully I'll have more time. We are going to separate between the testing and the approval. The ministry does not have the capacity to test. KEBS have the capacity to test. The money that comes out, our colleagues were even of the opinion, which I subscribe to their school of thought, that the money which is paid by either the importers, either the manufacturers, should actually be put in the kitty of SHA to be able now to focus on preventive, you know, because there is a fund, and this bill talks about that fund. It talks about a tobacco, I think tobacco fund, or is it, I don't know, preventive fund.
Senator
I hate that.
Olekina, I would love to have you conclude your comments on this particular bill tomorrow when we resume. You still have got 11 minutes to dissect and align with the bill from Senator Moma. Now, Honorable Senators, it's now 6:30 p.m. Time to adjourn the Senate. The Senate therefore stands adjourned until tomorrow, Wednesday, 30th of July, 2025 at 9:30 a.m.